There are a lot of YouTube channels out there that give fantasy football advice based off of feelings and opinions. Well, you know what they say about opinions. They're like buttholes. We all have them, and they all stink. It's time to hit you with some real facts, headliner style. What's going on, Headliner Nation? Jake Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully you're all doing well out there. Welcome back to the Draft.com studios. Hopefully you all had a great 4th of July. Hopefully you got to enjoy some barbecue, some cold drinks, some family, some friends, a day off of work, whatever it is. Hopefully you had a good holiday. But we're back at it today. We're talking about Dalvin Cook, and a lot of people hear the name Dalvin Cook and just say pass. Like they're just not interested in it. And a lot of it has to do because there's a lot of analysis out there, if that's what you want to call it, with Dalvin Cook, just writing them off before even really digging into it. Now, I joke about it in the intro. I like to have fun with the intros to these videos, trying to loosen the mood a little bit. There's a lot of boring content out there for fantasy football, and that's not what we're trying to be. We're trying to have some fun with fantasy sports. It's what we've been trying to do here for a few years, and so far, a lot of people are enjoying it. So if you're new here and that's what you're looking for, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into Dalvin Cook a little bit more. Let's see if it's really worth it or not. Is the upside really there for Dalvin Cook? Is it somebody we need to be targeting on draft day? I think I have almost every reason as to why the answer to that question should be yes. Now, before we dive into it, make sure you head over to our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. A lot of other great information over there. And our draft guide is now for sale, and people are loving it. The feedback we've gotten here since it's been out here just for a few days is overwhelming. We greatly appreciate that. It's almost 500 pages of pure fantasy football content for less than $20. For $19.99, get all the information you need to dominate fantasy football here in 2019, so make sure you go check that out. But now, let's talk about Dalvin Cook and why you need to own him in 2019. All right, here we go. Time to dive deep into Dalvin Cook. That didn't come out right. Let me tell you why you need to be drafting Dalvin Cook. As of right now, he has a second-round ADP on fantasyfootballcalculator.com. But let's just start off where everyone wants to start out, right? Anybody who's ever played fantasy football, one of the first things out of their mouth, if you mention the name Dalvin Cook, they want to talk about the injuries over the past 2 seasons. I get it. The first 2 years of his career has just been muddled with injury concerns, one after the other. First, the ACL 2 years ago, a nagging hamstring injury last year in 2019, in which he could only appear in 11 games. But hamstring issues are not uncommon for players who are coming off of torn ACLs. I actually went and researched medical records, medical reports, medical findings to see what I could find out about that ACL reconstructive surgery. It actually temporarily weakens the hamstring strength between 36 and 42% following ACL surgeries. It takes time to rebuild that strength in the hamstring. And because of that, it's something that he could just never get past last year. But I'm not going to say never, because we actually started to see the real explosive, the healthier Dalvin Cook the second half of 2019. He's now fully healthy. The ACL is a year and a half past. It should be good to go. The strength should be back in the hamstring. We saw the flashes of explosiveness last year in 2019. But how explosive, you ask? How about so explosive that he was the second fastest clocked ball carrier in 2018 at a speed of 22.07 miles per hour. That's a faster time than Tyreek Hill, who was at 21.95, Saquon Barkley at 21.91, and Phillip Lindsay right there at 21.91 also. But he wasn't just speed. The lateral cuts, the elusiveness, they were all back too. Despite only appearing in 11 games, he still finished 8th among all NFL running backs in evaded tackles with 66 and ranked 2nd in the NFL in juke rate with a rate of 38.2%. Now the Vikings tried their best to improve their offensive line here in the offseason. They drafted Garrett Bradbury in the 1st round and Drew Samia in the 4th round. Are they, great upgrades? Is this an elite offensive line? No, but it's at least better than it was last year. But the other key piece to this actually comes from the coaching staff. Now, if you go on the Vikings website and you look up who the offensive coordinator is, it's new offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, who came on at the end of last season. But let's be realistic. The biggest hire there on the coaching staff was Gary Kubiak, who was brought in as the assistant head coach and offensive advisor. And if there's anything that I know about Gary Kubiak, It's that he likes to run the ball an absolute butt ton. In his 22 seasons as either a head coach or offensive coordinator, he has had a rushing offense that has been top 10 in the NFL 13 times in rushing yards. And now, there's no Latavius Murray to steal carries and goal line touches. They did draft Alexander Mattison in the 3rd round, who I do love, but it's not like he's going to come in week 1 and take carries away from Dalvin Cook. Mattison is kind of like the equivalent to like Jake from State Farm. He's just there for insurance. But if you're worried, you can always grab him late in drafts also, because if anything were to happen to Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison all of a sudden skyrockets up into that RB2 category as a rookie. Now, Cook is great in the passing game as well. He actually finished 6th in the NFL among running backs in catch percentage with a rate of 81.6%, catching 40 out of the 49 balls that were thrown his way. And we already know that defenses can't stack the box against Minnesota's running game, or Cousins will absolutely pick them apart on the outside with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Heck, in 2018, Dalvin faced 6 or less defenders in the box 53.4% of the time. He only had to worry about a stacked box, which is 8 defenders in the box, on 8.3% of his carries. So let's see what kind of rushing numbers we could potentially get from Dalvin Cook here in 2019 if we base it off what he was doing average-wise the end of 2018. Now, over the last 8 games of 2018, Dalvin Cook had 97 carries for 517 yards. That comes out to be 5.3 yards per carry. Now, you take the Minnesota rushing attack of Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook. They had a combined 8 touchdowns over 237 carries. That gives you 1 touchdown for every 29 carries. On the receiving side, he also had 37 targets, which he then turned into 31 receptions for 198 yards. That comes out to be about 4 receptions per game at 6.3 yards per reception. He also turned 2 of those receptions into touchdowns, which gives him an average of 1 touchdown per 15.5 receptions. So I can hear the haters now. Let me guess, Jake, you just magically expect him to be a workhorse back, huh? He's going to go out there and play all 16 games, yada, yada, yada. No. Just like in other videos similar to this one, we're going to come up with a reasonable projection and just find out where he falls. Now, according to sportsinjurypredictor.com, they're saying he has a little over 50% chance of missing approximately 2 games over the season. So we'll take away 2 of those 16 games and we'll project him over 14 games. In 2018, Minnesota averaged 22 rushing attempts per game, but we know that Dalvin Cook is not going to get every single one of them. Let's start off with an average of 16 carries. Let's just see where that gets us. So you take the 14 games, times the 16 carries a game, and you come out to get 224 carries. You take that times his average of 5.3 yards per carry over the last 8 games of 2018, and you get a total of 1,187 rushing yards. Completely doable, not out of this world crazy projection. You take the 224 carries and you divide it by the 1 touchdown for every 29 carries, and you get just under 8 touchdowns rushing. Again, not a horribly out of this world projection. That gives him a rushing total of 166 fantasy points. Now for receiving, let's see what he comes out there. Let's take his 4 receptions per game and times them by the 14 games, and you'll get 56 receptions. Take his 56 receptions, multiply it by the average of 6.3 yards per reception, and you get 352 receiving yards. Not a crazy number. Then take those 56 receptions, divide it by his 1 touchdown for every 15.5 receptions, and you'll get just over 3 touchdowns there, giving him a total of 56 receptions, 352 yards, and 3 touchdowns receiving. That's a total of 109 PPR fantasy points just for his receiving. Now, the combined total, rushing and receiving, comes out to be 275 PPR fantasy points for the season. In 2018, that would have made him running back 9, and it also gives him a cushion of about 42 points to at least return his value as a top 11 running back, because currently that's where he's going, is running back 11 in drafts, which really makes him a buy for me here in 2019. Even if these numbers are slightly high in some area, the making is there for him to be a solid running back 1 in fantasy football here for the 2019 season. Everything is lining up to give Dalvin the opportunity to be that RB1 for fantasy football here in 2019. Is he going to be the number one guy overall? Probably not. But is he going to finish within the top 12? He has a pretty good chance. None of these projections were out of this world crazy. But what do you think? Do you like Dalvin Cook a little bit more now? Are you sold on Dalvin Cook? Do you have any questions about what you just heard about him? Are you not believing it? Do you think the projections are a little high? I want to make this interactive, one of the most interactive channels on YouTube. Hit me up down below in the comment section. If you leave a comment, you're going to get a response, so make sure you do that. We greatly appreciate everybody's support out there. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. And also consider subscribing if you're new here. If you are, and you do hit that subscribe button, let me know down below in the comment section. I would personally like to welcome you here. But before we get out of here, make sure you go check out our website one more time. Our draft guide for sale, $19.99, jam-packed full with almost 500 pages of everything you need to dominate fantasy football here in 2019. Hopefully you all have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.